Hello, I am Sydney Otis, and this is a video for my class, Themes in American History, Food. Today, I want to talk about my family tradition that has been around since, um, I think 1945. I believe that's the date I was told, and it's our homemade fruitcake. I chose this tradition because I grew up with it. We make it every year at around the start of December. I just went home and I had made it. Well, I didn't make it, but my mother and my grandmother and my great aunties, they made it. And I never really understood where it came from. So I interviewed my mom and my nana, and my nana is my grandmother, and they kind of told me how it has become a part of our family, the tradition about it, and its identity across generations. So this tradition started because my great grandfather, he had tasted fruitcake while he was over in Europe during the war. And when I interviewed my nana, she told me that when he had came back, that he said that he wanted to make a fruitcake because he had that while he was gone, and he wanted to share that as a Christmas tradition. It surprised me that something in that type of lifestyle moment and simple could comfort somebody like that. But I think that this connects to class because in How America Eats, the author explains that a lot of family food traditions begin after major historical events because families want something familiar, and that makes them feel stable again. And the book describes tradition as a way of creating family anchors when everything else is changing. And after the war, the life in America had changed really fast between technology, suburbs, and grocery stores. A lot of things had shifted, but recipes were passed down and traditions stayed in families. And one thing that my great grandfather had taken was a comforting food for him that turned something as bad and gory as war into something joyful that he wanted to make repeat every year. And so the fruitcake is really like a chain link between his experience in the war and our life at home. So I asked my mom what she thought about the fruitcake tradition today, and she told me that, to be honest, she doesn't even really like the taste of fruitcake, but she still makes it every year and participates in that because it reminds her that it's Christmas time, because for 45 years that's what she's been doing, and around Christmas that's something that she needs. And that's something that made me realize that the fruitcake, it isn't about eating, it isn't about necessarily the flavor of it, but it's really just like a symbolic thing that it's the start of the season of Christmas. And I think that this connects to our class, the book How America Eats, because the author talks about how food can carry memories from one generation to the next, and the tradition becomes something you feel and not something you remember directly. And according to my mom, what I've pulled from her, that is what our fruitcake is now. Even though the original reason was because my great grandfather had liked fruitcake while he was off at the war, I still feel the importance of it because it marks the beginning of Christmas in our house. Now, to understand necessarily why the tradition feels like a ritual, I had looked into the Buckeye Cookery book that we had studied a little bit ago to see if there was anything in there that it said. And this book was used way before my family had gotten this fruitcake tradition. And what stood out to me wasn't just necessarily the recipe or something that it had in there, but it's how it described holiday baking as something slow and meaningful, and it treats cakes as a celebration food that brings families together, kind of how like birthdays and stuff are. But back then, I had seen that families soaked fruits for days, they stirred their batter by hand, and it was baked for hours. But even though that it took a long time to make that stuff, it's what brought the family together, is what really made them do that and made it feel special. And when we are baking fruitcake, we aren't breaking it for dessert, because I found out a lot of people in my family don't like it. They really just like the symbolic meaning that it has, that Christmas is here. So even though I don't like the fruitcake or anything, I just wanted to share this because it's something really important in my family. And for 18 years that I've been alive, we've done it every year. And so a recipe that we started in 1949 has symbolized Christmas to us and has really been a pivotal tradition in our family. And even in COVID in 2020, my mom still made that fruitcake at home. Thank you for your time.